Hey, Don here with Poseidon Deepwater Outdoors. I know it's been a while, but let me go ahead and give you a little bit of insight of what we've been doing and what we kind of think is in store for the future. We at Poseidon have always attempted to stay forward moving and a little bit more on the cutting edge, utilizing technology and trying to break the mold of the norm. You know, there's a lot of times I've worked with them and I've been taught by them where there's people who are caught or captured into the past, not willing to make these big moves to stay static in a changing environment and in a changing market. They get caught up, and I think that's what we're seeing a lot of in the past, a lot of failure rates. Surprisingly, a lot of dive operations that I know, friends, they're weathering it fairly okay. Look, everybody's getting slammed, but you know, the mass closures of dive operations that were anticipated, at least in the regions that I work around, doesn't seem like that's going to actually happen. Of course, we're going to lose some, without a doubt. But I think, and the more I talk to them, there's a big optimistic approach to being ready to get after everything is lifted and getting operations coming and getting things back into the normal. Well, that's the trick. What is normal? There's a lot of discussion about that right now across the industry, amongst instructors, amongst dive agencies, amongst operations. You know, what is normal? Okay, well, let's break that down and see if we can digest it a little bit. So, I don't think, let's start with training and education. There's already moves within the major players and the major agencies to show where they're on top of the ball and they're making changes in the way training is going to be conducted. Now, like rescue scenarios and the use of micro shields and masks being mandatory, a lot more simulation, which in my opinion breaks down a little bit on the muscle memory when we're dealing with trauma and rescue, but at the same time, I understand the necessity related to ensuring that you're not passing on pathogens or, you know, really getting public health in order. There's also a push on, you know, dive equipment, sanitation, operation sanitations, and the injection of technologies that I think we should have been using in the long run, but seem to be in the forefront relative to having instructors be available for students. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. Now, back in the day, we used to pass out the book, knowledge reviews were done, and then we would gather up the class, you know, highlight everything, do prescriptive training, remedial training, you know, highlight certain topics like the RDP or, you know, dive physics and dive theory, physiology, whatever it may be. I don't think you're going to see that occurring that much anymore. You know, I know myself, I have been using Zoom and some other platforms like that to get students together to do training online. That allows me to be able to schedule this a little bit more readily and more diverse. I mean, I'm getting them across, you know, the globe, and I can be located in the United States and then turn around and be talking to people in the Philippines or in Europe and Australia, having one class getting it, and then when they decide to come in and take the open water, because they happen to have a trip coming to Florida or a trip going to Subic or a trip going to wherever, I'm able to meet them there and bring the group together, finish the training, certify them, and it could be in conjunction with a vacation or whatever. It allows more flexibility. Well, that also saves an overhead because my classroom is now in the virtual spectrum rather than in an actual physical classroom. If I have to do on-site training, I can do that using on-site training using other technologies like tablets, cell phones, anything else, bringing the classroom virtually to the student or students on the beach or at a dive site or whatever. And it makes it a lot easier. Plus inventories are lower and it's a little bit more environmentally friendly not having a book. So there's this bigger push for e-learning, e-training. I think all the agencies, there's some agencies that have been knee-deep in e-learning for quite some time. RAID never was or had books. They've always been an e-learning agency. ITDA is another one where they promote, you know, it's actually costs a lot more to get a book rather than getting it off of a tablet or downloading it from them. You know, Patty has been a little slow on that, but they're moving in it and they're pushing it. What they used to do is it used to be more expensive to do e-learning versus the book, which doesn't make sense to me. And I think what that was is because they had already published so many manuals, they had to get them sold out there, so they were raising e-learning in order to get rid of the costs associated with having the inventory on hand. Now, with the pandemic, I think you're going to see a paradigm shift in that. I do not think you're going to see that much in the way of printed materials from Patty anymore. Now, I've been doing a lot of my recent training sessions in tech and been very successful at it. I think using the virtual blackboards and slideshows allowed me to be able to pace it better, because I found that I'm getting more questions from students because those questions are being sent to me directly in a private room. So if I have 5 students, the other 4 students are seeing the question, I can stop, not point out the student, and say, hey, I just received a question on this, let's cover it over. You know, Dalton T, or, you know, whatever it might be. So I think that we're moving in a very good direction related to training and technologies that is inadvertently an effect of this pandemic occurring. Now there's the elephant in the room. Dive operations. You know, even up until recently, I'm chomping at the bit going, man, I can't wait till this is over. I can get back into the game, get the dives going on, you know, fill up those boats, get out on the sites, get into the water, thinking, you know, I'm in the water, what could happen? Well, a lot of these conditionary lifting of lockdowns or shelter in place has a lot to do with mandatory social distancing. Now, in some, I've been paying a lot of attention, like in Asia, and how things are occurring in India, and how they're really holding social distancing as a mandatory requirement for lifting the lockdowns. Now, let's take Philippines, because, you know, that's United States and Philippines is where I got most of my experience at. So, in the Philippines, they have it where public transportation will now start operations, but it's at a reduced capacity, meaning there has to be space between individuals to adhere to social distancing requirements, lifting their lockdown. I have a feeling that that's going to be something that's going to become a little bit more habitual in the long term, as you know, first wave kind of settles in, and the second and third wave comes in. You know, I think we're not done with this. We're going to see a lot, and those that are going to be able to adjust appropriately are the ones that are going to survive it. So, cattle operators, okay, cattle car operators. I know a lot of you might know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm using that analogy. A cattle car or a cattle boat operator is a boat that's got 20, 25 divers on it, and they need at least 10 or 15 in order to make the dive so that they can cover the costs of the operations. Well, you know, so in their model, the more the merrier, and they can get a lot of divers out on site into big name sites quickly, and they do this like two times a day all week long. So I don't think you're going to see that kind of operation. My opinion, I just can't see through it. If all these, you know, the packed banca boats in the Philippines or the Florida cattle boats are just probably going to be thrown to the wayside, and it's going to be a little bit more intimate, and it's going to have smaller groups. I think the boats and the operations will become more fine-tuned and smaller, and that means that the price is going to go up, and diving is going to be a little bit more costlier. Not that it's cheap as it is. So I think that's something that we need to understand is a product of the times, and a product of what is going to happen in order to save a beloved hobby and, you know, an industry. You know, so many people are concentrating on the hospitality industry right now, as far as restaurants and hotels and everything else. But, you know, you need to understand these dive operations have been closed too, and they're included in the hospitality industry. It's going to take a while to recover from it. I do think it'll occur. I think it'll be a little quicker than most. And I think there's a captive audience related to it that's going to help build that. Some other things that are going to be interesting to see the outcome of. The DEMA and some of the other dive conferences and dive shows across Asia and the UK. And the emergence of disposable type parts of equipment. Because, you know, related to DEMA brings in a lot of people, and you know, it's timing annually relative to the prediction on the emergence of some of these secondary and tertiary waves. That, you know, people are going to be cautious about coming in, so it's going to be interesting to see if they will start moving their dive shows into the virtual realm as well, because I've noticed that there has been some really cool trends related to conferences and shows and stuff like that, that you still, at obviously a reduced rate, you're still producing an entry, but you're viewing it, you know, virtually. You're you know, somewhere else in the world while the event's going on. And I'm wondering if that's something that will start impacting a lot of what DEMA is. Maybe they're going to only allow a certain amount of people in, because there'll be a set population, and then the rest of it will be on some kind of virtual ticketing, or those shows and those seminars, and, you know, even the booths could be done virtually with a small fee. You know, that'll be interesting to see how that dynamic kind of plays out. The other thing is the disposable equipment. You know, equipment sanitation for operations is going to be a key. And bleach doesn't do well on plastics, and a lot of these oxidizing sanitary detergents aren't doing good on plastics. So it's going to be interesting to see if, just like mouthpieces for other equipment, is this, in this dive industry, is this something that's going to be also subject to? It'll be interesting. But that's something as a diver, as an instructor, as an operator that we all have to take into consideration and be focused on, is the sanitation of our equipment, as well as protecting our customers as they come in from any type of infection. I think this is going to be a good result from this, because I can't tell you how many times I went to put a regulator and I smell my air before I put anything in my mouth, and the regulator smells like something crawled into it and died, and oh wow, what's the deal here? So my personal equipment that I have in my rental cycles are cared for and sanitized, because I don't like that myself. I don't want my customers to have to deal with that either. So there you go, a lot to ponder, a lot of changes. We sat there through this whole thing and probably contemplating, whew, can't wait till it's normal. Well, welcome to the new norm. And these are a lot of things that need to be openly discussed in the industry and amongst you as a consumer, right? And me as an operator trainer. Those conversations need to be had. So moving forward, how is it that, what is it that you can do as a consumer to make sure that you're protected? And that has to do with asking questions, knowing your operator. Don't accept the standards of the past that could cross and put you into harm in the future. So it's important that we are able to talk and communicate and have a conversation related to what the new standard is going to be, what the new norm is going to be, ensuring that we're all on the same, page. We got to be on the same sheet of music on this, because we have to do our part to prevent this from happening in the future. We're not a major player in the spread of the pandemic, but theoretically there's potential lays there. So we got to do what we need to do moving forward to ensure that we're doing our part. So conversation, questions, being respectful and cordial with each other, but having open discussions about it. These are things that are important. These are things that are imperative. All right? So I hope this video is seeing everyone healthy and safe. I am looking forward to hearing from you. If you need any training, make sure you look us up. That would be Poseidon Deepwater Outdoors. You can find us on Facebook. You can email me at poseidondwo@gmail.com. Look over on Facebook, and you can contact us directly on WhatsApp or PM us over there and ask us what it is that you are looking for. We will design, we do custom design programs specific to your needs and your interests. So I myself, I am a little tech heavy. I prefer to teach in the tech realm. We have instructors that specialize in recreational. We also have some that specialize in ecology, conservation awareness, and the environmental aspect of diving. We also provide pre-diving support and free-diving training. We provide technical support and technical dive training, and everything you could think of under the sun that you would want to do recreationally, we can do it. Alright guys, until next time, I'm Don. Peace.